Howdy there folks, I am the Psychic Pineapple, and let's get started. I pick a Ralt, who I name Fiora, who's modest with a Trace ability. That's actually pretty good. The first fight is against Hau with his Pichu and Rowlet. Fiora actually traces static and then slowly kills Pichu, who keeps spamming Charm even though Fiora is a special attacker. After a short period of not being able to do anything, I head to the Pokemon Center to retrieve Shulk from his BC box. He is adamant with Synchronize as his ability. Now then, the Trainer Skull is where I hit my first roadblock. There's an Alolan Grimer in there, which is a dark type. Shulk and Fiora don't learn any non-psychic moves until level 11. Where they learn Disarming Voice, which is a fairy-type move, which is good. I end up getting through all that, and now it's time for the first trial in the game. I have to kill 3 Pokemon before I get to challenge the Totem Pokemon, but Team Skull arrives and intervenes. And I love Team Skull. Now, I go into the Totem's Den and get obliterated due to their low defense stats. I decide to go and level a duo up until Fiora is level 16. Since she is the main attacker, since Shulk is adamant, which is, minus special attack. In the den, a few Disarming Voices end up killing everything because it's super effective against dark types. There's also the Ultra Recon Squad fight, where, unsurprisingly, the headbutt flinches every time and crits twice, making Fiora and Shulk both die. Thanks, game. I go back in and yeah, with no flinches and a crit on a confusion, I win this fight easily for Fiora. Now then, fighting Kahuna time. Hala's team is fairly easy to beat. You know, because he's the fighting type and I have Psychic Fairy types. The first 2 go down no problem, but Crabrawler does end up killing Fiora, but Shulk comes back out and avenges her. Later on at the next island, Fiora and Shulk both evolve into Kirlia. Now then, it's time for the Hau fight. He ends up killing Fiora after she takes out Dartrix, meaning Shulk, the adamant Kirlia, needs to come out and solo the rest of his team. Thankfully, he somehow succeeds. It's time for Lana's trial as well. I have to find a bunch of fish and beat the carp out of them. Then it's time for Totem Araquanid. It obliterates Fiora and Shulk. It knows Leech Life and basically undoes any damage I do against it. Even at higher levels, nothing happens as the duo don't know any good moves, and all of them are very low power. The next good move is at level 30, which is Psychic, which is also when they evolve into Gardevoir. Even with Calm Mind, Fiora and Shulk get annihilated. I return once more with Fiora at level 30, meaning she now has Psychic and is also a Gardevoir. I have her Calm Mind once and then one-shot both Araquanid and Dupiter. Now then, I'm actually gonna box Shulk until I need him next, which is gonna be on Poni Island after Ultra Megalopolis, because that's when you get the Dawn Stone. Now then, the Battle Royal, where Fiora one-shots a Rockruff. Thanks, Fiora. Now then, it's time for a memory game with Kiawe. It's basically nothing as I fight through a Marowak, a Hiker, and now it's time for the Totem. It dies in 2 Psychics, so does the Salazzle, since Fiora couldn't use the same move twice in a row. Now then, that was pretty interesting. I guess it's time for Mallow's trial. First, I gotta go find a Mago Berry, honey, and a big root. It's different than the previous one where you just need Stoutland, but here you just go and grab the thing that isn't being taken by a Pokemon. What time is it? It's Totem time. The other 2 totems were different from the previous games, but this one is the same. Totem Lurantis starts out by critting on a Solar Blade. Then it gets one-shot by a Calm Mind boosted Psychic. I end up in the Dimension Research Lab to meet Kukui's wife. After that mess, I help Faba out and fight Plumeria. She has a Golbat, which uses Confuse Ray, and Poison Fang, which confuses and poisons Fiora. She then one-shots both it and Salandit. Thanks, Fiora. Now then, Kahuna Olivia. Her Anorith outspeeds and has Metal Claws, but it gets one-shot by Psychic. Lilith takes a bit longer due to me trying to regain Fiora's HP from the super effective Metal Claw with Draining Kisses, and then she crits Psychic and one-shots Lycanroc, which went for a Bite instead of a Z move. I fly back to the island and head over to the Hano Grand Resort, which is a pretty cool looking hotel. I take a boat from there to Aether Paradise, and I get to their wild Pokemon area and walk around and see everything, until I reach Lusamine, where a space jellyfish emerges, and I have Fiora annihilate it with Psychic moves, since Nihilego is a rock poison type. Now then, Ula'Ula. I get to fight Hau. I start off with Fiora at max health, but she takes a decent bit of damage from his Dartrix. Next out is Tauros, which doesn't do much. I have Fiora use Calm Mind and then Psychic, and out next is Vaporeon, which also doesn't do much and goes down in 2 Magical Leafs. After that is a Noibat, which gets one-shot by Draining Kiss. Then out last is Raichu. It goes down in 2 Draining Kisses. And I finish this fight against Hau with Fiora at max health. I head on over to a library and help Lily, then take a bus to the top of the mountain. There's an observatory at the top, and I have to go and fight a bunch of Chargebugs. And now it's time for Sophocles' trial. I gotta do a bunch of puzzles with rotating Pokemon. Now then, it's time for Totem Togedemaru. First off, Fiora traces Lightning Rod. It ends up using Spiky Field as I said with Calm Mind. But me forgetting that it is a Steel type, it kills Fiora, because she's a Psychic Fairy. The only move that Fiora can learn that'd be of help here would be Focus Blast, which can only be found in Seafolk Village, and also Shadow Ball, which can only be found at the trial immediately after this. After a lot of failed attempts later, and at level 47, I have Fiora Calm Mind turn 1. then Psychic and crit on a Draining Kiss while having a Citrus Berry to kill the totem, leaving only Skarmory. It dies shortly after. I get the Professor's Mask and have to go give it to him. Instead of just Kukui, I also find Guzma, who hits hard with his first impressions, but his entire team gets one shot. I also find the Aether House and meet Acerola. I have to do her trial now, which is taking pictures in an abandoned supermarket. After a bunch of those, I find Acerola seemingly, and then the totem Mimikyu. Which two-shots Fiora since he's a Psychic type and Mimikyu is a Ghost type. I guess I'm gonna have another really tough fight then, I guess. I failed a bunch here. Returning at level 62, I have Fiora Shadow Ball to Mimikyu 3 times, and Banette once. It ends up killing both of them, and finally winning. After that, I have a rather unremarkable fight with Plumeria. It's time for Po-Town now. I avoid most every trainer possible and get to Guzma, because I don't know why, and now I have to fight him. His team is basically doomed. Overleveled Fiora obliterates him. Next up is Gladian. His Golbat goes down instantly. Zoroa does trick me because I forgot about it entirely, and then Type Null takes 2 Psychics. It's now time for Kahuna Nanu. He uses Dark types against Fiora, the Fairy type. She Moonblasts everything to their death. It's nice having a required fight that isn't difficult. It's now time for the Aether Paradise. After fighting through a bunch of employees, I finally reached the first Faba fight. Shadow Ball one-shots. There are quite a few double battles here, including one with Faba, which is cool. I feel like there are more double battles in these games than more recent ones. A fight with Hao goes pretty easily, because it's just hitting stuff and everyone just wants to attack Hao instead. Gladian just cheats and runs past a bunch of fights. How dare he? I fight 2 grunts because the third one has a brain and refuses to fight because of how easily I take out the other 2 grunts. Starting off with Guzma, I sacrifice Shulk for first impressions. Golisopod goes down to 1 Moonblast. Out next is Vikavolt, which barely survives another Moonblast and needs another hit to die. Pinsir dies in 1, and so does Masquerain. I run up the building and end up fighting Lusamine. Her Clefable can't do much to Fiora, so I just have her set up 5 Calm Minds. Was it overkill? Probably. Fiora one-shots literally everything before they can go. Except Lopunny, because Lopunny is very fast. But it's a Thunder Punch, and it doesn't do much. Fiora one-shots it. Lusamine opens the Ultra Wormhole anyway, and Guzma follows her. And finally, it's time for Poni Island. I go to Exeggutor Island and get rid of their pest problem just so I can get a flute. I grab it and fight Soliera. Then go through Vast Poni Canyon. It's time for the final trial as well, Totem Kamoo. It eats a berry to reduce super effective damage, and it kills with a Poison Jab and a Bullet Punch from Scizor. I guess I need to level up here. At level 72, Fiora is strong enough to still one-shot it despite the berry. I finally arrive at the Altar of the Moon. Lily and I play our flutes and open an Ultra Wormhole. Nebby flies out into the light and reveals itself as Lunala. An Ultra Wormhole opens up and Guzma and Lusamine pop out and tell us to run as Necrozma shows up. It fights Nebby and wins as it fuses itself with it. A bunch of Ultra Wormholes appear across the islands and I have to go fight Dawnwing's Necrozma, a Psychic Ghost type. A single Shadow Ball kills it. I also hop on the back of a Solgaleo and go through the White Warp Hole to reach Ultra Megalopolis, and then immediately get off and go back to the normal world, because I need myself that Dawnstone. I go and talk to the child a bunch, and he finally gives me it, so I guess it's time to level up Shulk. Even if it isn't a good idea against the Dragon Psychic type, I'm sending out Shulk first. It's time for Ultra Necrozma. Shulk gets off a Stone Edge before he dies, leaving it for Fiora to finish. She barely survives a Smart Strike before one-shotting it with a Moonblast. Is this fight supposed to be hard or something? I return back to the normal world and prepare for Mina's trial. I fight her and forget to put Fiora in front, so Shulk is out first. His Z-move one-shots Mawile. Granbull goes down 2 Stone Edges, with one of them critting even. Shulk's attack was dropped twice in this fight. Outlast is Rabombi, which goes first and one-shots Shulk. But Fiora comes out and 2-shots it. Now, Mina's trial involves getting petals from all the trial captains after either fighting them or just talking to them. First up is Ilima. I find him in a cemetery, mourning the loss of his mother, I think. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. Anyways, I send Shulk out and beat up his entire team. Lana's next. Her Lantern paralyzes Shulk, and then his Psycho Cut doesn't do much damage. Shulk barely manages to kill the Cloyster, and then an Araquanid finishes the weakened Shulk off. Fiora shows up and obliterates it, as always. It's Kiawe time. I accidentally use Moonblast instead of Psychic with Fiora against Arcanine. Marowak gets one-shot by Shadow Ball, and then Talonflame gets one-shot with a Psychic. I then beat up a Hiker and get Kiawe's Petal. Sophocles, being the little crybaby he is, just gives me his after his, cousin or something leaves, I don't remember. He just brings me to Acerola then. However, she isn't here, meaning I need to fight Nanu. Starting off with Shulk, I return him so I can obliterate his entire team with Fiora's Moonblast, because it's just that good. It's time for the final totem now. Totem Rabombi ends up obliterating my team, partially because Fiora wasn't healed up. Actually, after healing her, I have Shulk Stone Edge the totem on turn 1, then crit the Blissey so it doesn't heal the totem. Then Fiora comes out, uses 2 Moonblasts to kill Rabombi, and then she kills the Pelipper as well. That was easier than I made it seem, but yeah, it's Hapu time. She starts out with a Golurk, so I swap Fiora in, who gets pretty badly hurt, but she kills with a Shadow Ball. Mudsdale is out next, and it barely survives a Moonblast. It kills Fiora with a Heavy Slam, bringing Shulk out, who fighting Z-moves then Brick Breaks to finish it off. Shulk then gets his accuracy lowered by Muddy Water twice before finally dying to a Flygon. Going back in, I swap Fiora and Shulk around. Golurk survives Shadow Ball and then sets up a South Rock. Even though it gets healed by a Hyper Potion, Mudsdale once more survives a Moonblast as it Z-moves and nearly kills Fiora, but she used her Citrus Berry. Gastrodon gets 2-shot by Moonblast and Flygon goes down in 1 hit. I'm told to head to Lanakila where I meet up with Gladian. His Crobat one-shots Shulk immediately. I get close to winning, but Silvally ends up killing Fiora. I give Fiora a Citrus Berry this time as she one-shots the Crobat, one-shots Lucario with Psychic. Zoroark Z-moves against Fiora but gets Moonblasted. Silvally once more kills Fiora, but this time I made sure Shulk was still alive. Multi-attack does a lot of damage, but Shulk survives and kills it with a Brick Break. Now that all that is out of the way, it's time to face the Elite Four. Melemele is first. His Klefki paralyzes Shulk and then Fiora dies, and then Shulk also dies. Next attempt, I have Fiora take the paralysis instead against Klefki, and then spam Shadow Ball a bunch. Metagross is out next and one-shots Fiora as well. It also kills Shulk. Next attempt, Fiora kills Klefki and does a pretty decent amount of damage to Metagross. Shulk comes out and Brick Breaks it. However, Bisharp ends up killing Shulk. I go back in and give Fiora a Lumberry. Fiora avoids both Thunder Waves from Klefki and kills it. I guess I didn't need the berry, because she outspeeds Metagross and one-shots it. She one-shots Bisharp as well with a Moonblast. She two-shots Magnezone with Shadow Ball, and then one-shots Dugtrio with a Shadow Ball as well. That was much harder than it should have been. Next up is Olivia. Armaldo goes down to 2 Brick Breaks. Cradilly goes down in 1 hit with a Brick Break. Probopass takes many hits due to Sturdy. Lycanroc dies to a Brick Break as well. Then me, not wanting to risk anything, he's an all-out pummeling against Gigalith and kill it. That's how the fight with Melemele should have gone. Acerola is up next, and her Banette gets one-shot, as does Delmise and Frostlass and Palisand, but not Drifblim, it survives. Fiora then uses the rest of her Shadow Balls on it as Acerola likes to heal it. Now then, Flying Lady whose name I still refuse to learn. Her first is Braviary. It has Sheer Force, meaning that Fiora's Psychic, Moonblast, and Shadow Ball will all be boosted. Thanks, Braviary. That's gonna be fun. Because, well, she one-shots Braviary and Hawlucha. Mandibuzz decided to be a Dark type against Fiora's Moonblast, so it died. Toucannon also gets one-shot. Oricorio ends up surviving a Moonblast because it resists, because I forgot what type Oricorio is, and then gets fully healed and then crit by a Psychic and immediately dies. That was fun. Now then, for what's easily my favorite champion fight, the first title defense of Alola versus Hau. Raichu uses Thunderbolt while Fiora kills with a Shadow Ball. I want Shulk more, so I swap him in only for him to die against Tauros. Hau ends up winning round 1 with Decidueye not getting one-shot by a Shadow Ball. I give Citrus Berries to Shulk and Fiora and go in for another round. Raichu once more gets one-shot, Tauros as well. Then Decidueye crits on a Spirit Shackle. Shulk is out now and he outspeeds it and uses 2 Psycho Cuts and kills. Shulk misses 1 Stone Edge and is hurt because of it, but he kills anyways. He also one-shots Vaporeon with a close combat and finally finishes off Crabominable with a single Psycho Cut. And with that, I've beaten Pokemon Ultra Moon with Gardevoir and Gallade. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe even join my Discord server, which is linked in the description below. And have a wonderful day.